Hello everyone and welcome. In today's video we're going to go over FrameCAD Fundamentals. First thing we want to do is open up FrameCAD Structure. It's going to be this little FrameCAD icon here down below with an S. So we're going to open up FrameCAD Structure. We're going to learn how to create and save FrameCAD Structure drawing files. So here's FrameCAD Structure. This is an important note. You can just go ahead and skip this note. I'm just going to say no. And I'm going to let it continue to load up. And here we go. So first thing we want to do is perform a file save as. So if you can see down up above, we have all of our drop down menus here under File. I'm going to go to Save As. And we're going to save our drawing right away. This is a really good habit to get into when you're using any of these architectural softwares, is starting the file, performing a save as. And what that allows us to do is to pick a specific place where we want to store this file for use in the future, and we're going to give it a very specific name so that way we can quickly identify it later on as well. So I'm going to search for a place where I want to put it. I've got Google Drive installed here, so I'm going to just upload it right onto Google Drive. Let's put it under OCC 2025. Let's go to Fall, and let's go to 121. I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to just call it Studio 1. Alright, and I'm going to drop it right here. The next thing, now that I've picked a location of where I want to put it, I need to remember where that location is in the future. Now I'm going to name it. The naming scheme that I often use looks like this. Call this Assignment 1, FrameCAD Fundamentals, TJC. So I always put the date, and it's done as year, month, and day. Okay, and I really only need the last two digits of the year. I don't need it to say 2025 because those first two digits, 20, are going to be like that for about 1,000 years. And 09 is obviously the month, 04 is today's date. And then here's my identifier for this file, right? The first part was the date. The second part is what would I find in this file before I even open it up, right? I can just see it as a file name. I'll know that this is Assignment 1, FrameCAD Fundamentals. And then I always put my initials at the end. When you work in an office, a lot of times you'll want to know who did what work. And so having my initials at the end helps identify who did what. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Okay, and here up above is this little tab with that file name. So this document here, this black screen, is actually the file that I'm using right now here in FrameCAD Structure. So the next thing we want to do is I'm going to show you a little bit about the user interface. Up above here is our quick access toolbar. A lot of these tools here are tools that are typically used quite often, and they're located right here. We've got the new file button, open, save, save as, undo, redo. Not sure what that one is. Some of our layers, filters, and then this little drop down menu gives you control as to which one of these are activated. So looks like if I turn off workspaces, parts of these things will disappear. I'm going to turn off layer control. I'm going to turn off filters. I'm going to keep undo and redo. Those are very important. Save and save as are good. Open and new are good. Print, delete, help, menu bar. So I think with these are pretty much the only quick access tools that I would ever use. The next thing is all of our drop down menus here in the tool ribbon. Okay, a lot of the commands that we're going to be using in this software are stored here and organized under these drop down menus. So if you need to affect something that has to do with what you're viewing, it would be here under the View drop-down menu. If we're editing something, copying, cutting, pasting, deleting, we can do it from the Edit menu. If I need to insert another file into FrameCAD Structure, Insert, and tons of other things. The girth of what we're going to do in Structure is going to be located right here in the Structure drop-down menu. Over this series of videos, I'm hoping to show you visually where I'm pulling certain commands from, and you should notice a pattern that I'm using Structure drop-down menu quite often. So that is one way of initiating commands in Structure, is by finding those located in these drop-down menus. And then we have our ribbon bar here, which has a lot of the same similar tools, just organized in a slightly different way. It's a little bit more visual. It's actually a little bit limited on what tools can appear here, but still a good thing to have. The next thing we have here is this is our current working file. If I was to start a brand new file, you'll see drawing2.dwg. This is the active file right now. However, I can travel back to my other file, and I can go back to this one. I can close this one out and not save it. Now I've just got the one file open. In any of these tools here in the ribbon bar, sometimes you'll see this little arrow. So if you click on that drop down arrow, you'll get a couple more options for those things. This black canvas that we have here is our modeling environment. We're going to be doing a lot of our work right here in the modeling environment. And the reason why it's black is because we're going to be using two-dimensional lines and three-dimensional extrusions, and they're all typically organized into layers, and those layers have very high visible colors, and so the black background is going to allow us to see those big bright colors. You'll see this in AutoCAD as well, so it's pretty typical of most CAD programs to have this. The next thing I want to point out is our modeling environment, which is located down below. Right now I'm in Layouts. Okay, so this big black canvas is here under Layouts. If I navigate to Model, we'll be using this later on in the series, but in Model I'll actually be able to see a 3D interpretation, visualization of what I'm working on. And then here in Layout 1 is like a scratch pad, and you can add some notes in here. You can have a couple of blocks, and just keep some notes here for yourself, for your files. And the main portion of our designs are going to live here under the Layouts tab, and then Model will be where we go and see the 3D visualization. And then down below here on the bottom right corner is what is called our status bar. It's got a lot of handy tools. These tools that I have turned on, I can see that they're enabled because they have this slight blue background to it. If I click on that, notice that it actually goes away. If I click it again, then it reappears. We have several different things, including being able to turn cursor mode on and off. We have our crosshairs, annotation visibility, snapping. Snapping can be really helpful in a CAD program. The grid, okay, I can turn the grid on and off. Dynamic input. Ortho. Ortho is a very important tool. Ortho basically will constrain us in moving straight and left and up and down movements. So when we draw a line, it will always go up and down or left and right. Polar tracking makes us snap to very specific angles. Entity snap settings, we're going to be using this quite a lot, and what it enables us to do is snap to very specific points within any piece of geometry that we have drawn. Let's say I have a line. I draw a line in this CAD program. That line has two endpoints. So with entity snap on and the correct entity snap settings activated, I can actually snap my cursor directly to those two endpoints. I can snap it to its midpoint if that's enabled as well. And so being able to utilize that tool will allow us to make some highly accurate drawings. Then we have entity snap tracking and line weights and model or paper space and other things like that. So, and then down below, probably the most important part of this whole interface is our command bar. Right here where it says command, you're going to be initiating commands by typing those commands in. Right? So if I were to type in line, right, that is one of the many thousands of commands in this CAD software. I just need to type line and then hit enter to actually initiate that command. Here in the command line, it is communicating back to me, and it says, all right, cool, let's do a line. Where's the start of that line? That means I need to dictate to it here in the modeling environment where the start of that line is. I'm going to go and left click. Okay. And now I'm going to refer back to that command line and see what else it says. And it says angle, length, endpoint. Okay. The part that's in brackets, endpoint, it's asking us basically to define the endpoint. So anywhere here in this modeling environment, I can go ahead and click anywhere I want, and I've just dictated where the endpoint of that line is. Okay, looking back at my command line, I still have those same options, except I have a couple more. Angle, length, follow, undo. And so endpoint is there again. And basically what it's allowing me to do is continuously draw many, many lines, as many as I want. If I'm done drawing this line, I can just hit enter. And now in my command line, it doesn't say anything. What's above the command line is what's called our command history. So I can actually use my scroll wheel to go all the way up and see all of the commands that I've used thus far in this file. And it's just giving me a history of all that. So there's my line. Okay, I'm going to select it and delete it. I don't really need that. And then the next part I want to go over is our drawing settings. So I'm going to navigate to the Tools drop-down menu. I'm going to go to Drawing Settings. And a couple of things I want to change here. I want to set the linear unit type to architectural. So linear unit type, set this to architectural. And basically it'll display our units as architectural units. Here in the States we use imperial units, so we want to see something a little similar to this where it says 2 foot 8 inches. And then my display precision, I can set it to 3. By setting it to 3, I'm setting it to the nearest 1/8 of an inch. If I set this to 0, it's going to round all of our measurements to the nearest whole inch. If I set this to 1, it'll round it to the nearest 1/2 of an inch. If I set this to 2, it'll set it to the nearest 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch, 32nd of an inch, 64th of an inch, 128th of an inch, and so on and so forth. Actually, 256th of an inch is the highest it can go. We don't need that much precision, especially when designing a building. You want to use whole numbers when possible. And we're going to set this down to 3. Even 1/8ths are a little weird to use, especially as a contractor who might be pouring a foundation and measuring things. Having a contractor measure to the nearest 1/8 is a bit much, but for our purposes, we're doing the structural design, an 1/8 is going to be okay. So I'm going to leave that set to 3. I'm going to go to the coordinate input tab, and I'm going to make sure that I have draw orthogonal on, auto snap magnet on, and then I'm going to go to entity snaps. Make sure entity snap tracking is off. I'm going to do endpoint, nearest, perpendicular, center, midpoint, intersection, turn off apparent intersection, and extension. You want to have all of these on. The ones that I have checked on, make sure you have them checked on as well. We'll explain a little bit more about those later on in the semester, but these are going to be really important points to be able to snap to. So we'll click OK. So now we got our settings kind of dialed in. I want to talk about the mouse a little bit. Here I'm using just a regular old mouse. Let's see if I can show it off on the camera. So it's got the left click, a right click, it's got a scroll wheel, and then the only other feature I ever usually need on a mouse architecturally is the forward and back button here on the side, and that's about it. So what you can do is the left click allows users to select geometry or create a selection window. So if I wanted to select a range of geometry here in this modeling environment, I would click, do a left click. I would move my cursor away from that point and then do another left click, and that would allow me to make a selection within that boundary. Alternatively, and we'll go over this a little later on in the future, I can left click and go towards the right. Notice the color difference, right? One is blue, one is left, based on whether I start on the left or start on the right. So we'll discuss that later on in the semester. And then right clicking. Right clicking can mean many things. Typically right clicking achieves it's equivalent to using the enter button. It's equivalent to using the space bar. And basically, if I were to type in a command like line to actually initiate that command, I would need to hit enter, right? So I'm going to hit escape 2 times to get out of there. Let's say I type in line. Instead of pressing enter, I can actually hit the space bar now. Okay, and that also initiates the command. If I hit escape 2 times, type in line, and right click, that also initiates the command. So all 3 of those buttons do the same thing. It can be really handy, especially once you get more familiar with commands. You're going to be typing them in quite quickly and either right clicking, pressing space, or pressing enter. If you ever have to repeat a command multiple times, you can also right click to repeat the last command that you used. So those are really handy tools. And hit escape 2 times. Always hit escape a couple times at the end of a command. So let's say you do the line command. I hit the space bar. Here's my start point. Here's my end point. Press enter to finish the command. I've got no active commands in my command bar. Hit escape 2 times. Always do that. In between your commands, hit escape twice. What that achieves is it makes sure that whatever active command you have is now deactivated for sure. And then the second thing it does is it deselects anything else that you might have selected in the modeling environment. So that way, by the time you start the next command, you won't be starting that command based off of the selection that you already have on. So, and then with the middle wheel button, I can zoom in and out of my objects. I can pan. If I click and drag the middle wheel button, I can perform what's called a pan. You know, I can actually move around this modeling environment by almost miming my way through it. I can also double click on the middle wheel button and it will zoom to the fullest extents and show me all the geometry that I have in this file. So if I were to zoom way out into the universe, type in line, space bar, put it over there, zoom into this one here, and then double click on my middle wheel button, it'll bring all the geometry right here in the forefront in my modeling environment on my display. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all this and make a nice large selection window. I can select both of those items and I'm going to hit delete. Alright, so you've seen just a couple of those commands that I've used so far. I'm going to go ahead and review a few basic commands. One is line. Make sure you spell these commands correctly. So L-I-N-E this time. You hit enter. You look at the command bar. You see what it's asking you, right? Read what it's asking you. The command bar is your place of communication with the software. You say, I want a line. It says, where do you want to start it? you say, I want to start it here, it'll tell you, all right, I'll start it there. Where do you want to end it? Okay, and then it'll also give you a couple of clickable options that you can use to affect the command. So going through this, I typed in line. It says enter to use last point, follow start of line. So always look for that part that's in brackets, start of line. I'm going to say start right here. Okay, notice that when I move my cursor off of that starting point, I'm getting a line that's following my cursor. But notice it's always coming in as straight lines. That's because ortho is on. So if I were to turn ortho off, notice now I'm not making any lines that are going straight left and right and straight up and down. Now they're technically still straight lines, but they can move about that point at any degree. Okay, so if I turn ortho back on, now I'm constrained to moving in a straight left to right motion or a straight up and down motion. So now it wants an endpoint. Here's my endpoint. Okay, let's say I'm done with the command. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to hit escape 2 times. Okay, there's a line. The next command I want to show you is called Polyline. Go ahead and type in Polyline, all one word. All commands in this software and most CAD drafting softwares are just one giant word. So Polyline is just spelled out as one word. It's asking for the start of the polyline. I'm going to start it right here. And then it's asking for the next point. I'm going to put it here. And now it's asking for the next point, and the next point, next point, next point, and so on and so forth until I'm satisfied. Okay, so let's say I'm satisfied. I would hit enter to finish the command and hit escape 2 times, just for a good habit. Let's say I want to perform a move function. I would type in move, hit enter. It says to select the entities to move. I'm going to click on the entity or geometry that I want to move. I'm going to press enter. It says to specify a base point or displacement. So I'm going to specify by clicking anywhere. I'm going to click way up here, and now it's asking me to specify the second point or the displacement. So I'm taking it, I'm moving a line, and I'm going to do it from this point, and wherever I move that point, this line will move in response to it, right? So imagine that this point and this line, this entity that I want to move, their relationship is locked. So if I move point A to point B, this entity below will also move and continue that relationship that it had with point A. And then just click, and now there's no commands. And then the next command would be copy. So let's type in copy and press enter. Copy is a very good command to know because you can select your entity that you want to copy, press enter, define a base point just like we did earlier. So I'm going to click way over here and then define a point B to where you want to copy this thing to, and then you click, and then when you're done you hit enter and hit escape 2 times. I'm going to double click on my middle wheel button, and now I've created 2 of this spiral polyline. And then the next thing I want to do is use the rectangle command. So I'm going to type in rectangle, press enter, and this one works by selecting the first corner of the rectangle. So I'll do it right in here, and then specifying the other corner. So I'm going to do it right there, and that's it. Okay, hit escape 2 times, and then now let's draw a circle. Type in circle, press enter. We're going to specify the center of the circle. I'm going to drop it right there, and that's it. Let's do that again. Since I'm going to repeat a command, I'm going to go ahead and press enter. Define the center of the circle as right here. Okay, and the next part is the radius. So I can either define the radius using an actual measurement or unit. Right now, if I were to hit enter, it would create a circle with a radius of 1 3/4, 1 3/4 inch radius. So let's say 2 units or 2 inches. Press enter, and now it's created a circle for me that has a radius of 2 inches and therefore a diameter of 4 inches. And that's about it for this video. Go ahead and review some of those commands and try out drawing a couple of different things. See if you can write your name on it, see if you can draw a face, do anything you want to copy and practice these commands. All right, thank you. I'll see you in the next one.